Good morning. We begin this Thursday with developing news involving widespread technical issues affecting several major financial institutions across the United States. Customers of multiple national and regional banks are reporting difficulty accessing online banking services, while thousands of automated teller machines have become unavailable throughout portions of the Northeast, Midwest, and Southeast. Many customers attempting to withdraw cash this morning have encountered error messages indicating that transactions cannot be completed at this time. Several financial institutions have acknowledged the disruptions, describing them as a technical issue affecting portions of their digital banking infrastructure. Officials emphasize that customer deposits remain secure and that there is currently no indication of unauthorized access to individual accounts. The outages have also affected some mobile banking applications and online payment services, preventing customers from checking account balances, transferring funds, or completing certain electronic transactions. Bank representatives say technicians have been working throughout the morning to restore service as quickly as possible. Federal officials, including representatives from the Department of the Treasury and the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, are monitoring the situation alongside affected financial institutions. At this time, authorities say there is no evidence that the outages are connected to any broader public safety threat. Businesses that rely primarily on electronic payment systems are advising customers that temporary delays may occur while service providers work to resolve the issue. Most retailers continue accepting credit and debit card purchases, although isolated reports of payment processing delays have also begun surfacing in several metropolitan areas. Financial analysts caution that while large-scale banking outages are uncommon, they are not unprecedented, and officials are urging customers to remain patient while restoration efforts continue. Authorities recommend avoiding repeated login attempts if online banking services remain unavailable and encourage customers to rely only on official communications issued by their financial institutions. We'll continue following this developing story throughout the morning and provide updates as additional information becomes available. Stay with NBC New York for continuing coverage.
The following message is transmitted at the request of the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, the United States Department of the Treasury, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the United States Department of Homeland Security. An administrative message is being issued to provide an update regarding ongoing network disruptions affecting portions of the United States. Federal agencies are actively investigating widespread disruptions impacting multiple financial institutions, electronic banking services, and portions of the nation's digital communications infrastructure. Government officials have confirmed that technical specialists from several federal agencies are coordinating with affected organizations to determine the cause of the outages and restore normal operations as quickly as possible. At this time, disruptions continue affecting online banking platforms, mobile banking applications, automated teller machines, and certain electronic payment processing systems. While these outages have caused inconvenience to customers and businesses, officials emphasize that there is currently no evidence of unauthorized access to customer financial accounts or deposits. Cybersecurity specialists from the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Department of the Treasury, and additional federal partners have begun a coordinated investigation into the incident. Multiple government cyber response teams have been deployed to assist affected institutions with network analysis, system restoration, and threat assessment. Officials are also working closely with private sector infrastructure operators to determine whether the disruptions are isolated technical failures or part of a broader incident affecting interconnected digital networks. Residents are encouraged to remain patient while restoration efforts continue. Customers experiencing temporary service interruptions should rely only on official communications issued by their financial institutions and avoid responding to unsolicited emails, telephone calls, or text messages requesting personal or financial information. Businesses experiencing electronic payment disruptions are encouraged to follow established continuity procedures and report significant network anomalies to the appropriate service providers and federal authorities. At this time, there is no indication that emergency services, public utilities, or other critical life safety systems have been significantly affected. Federal officials continue monitoring the situation closely, and additional updates will be provided as more information becomes available. Continue monitoring local officials, local media, and official government sources for updated information regarding this developing situation.
The following message is transmitted at the request of the Illinois Emergency Management Agency, the Illinois State Police, the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, and the City of Chicago Office of Emergency Management and Communications. A civil emergency message has been issued for the Chicago metropolitan area and surrounding portions of northeastern Illinois due to expanding disruptions affecting electronic payment systems and financial transaction networks. Since the issuance of the previous administrative message, officials have confirmed that outages affecting electronic banking services have intensified. Numerous businesses throughout the region are experiencing failures involving credit card processing systems, debit card transactions, and electronic point-of-sale terminals. As a result, many retailers are currently unable to process electronic purchases. Several businesses have temporarily suspended sales while technicians work to restore service. Numerous gasoline stations throughout Cook, DuPage, Lake, Kane, Will, and McHenry counties have reported an inability to process electronic payments and are temporarily accepting cash transactions only. Motorists are encouraged to verify payment options before traveling and should avoid allowing fuel levels to become critically low. Banks continue reporting intermittent outages affecting automated teller machines, online banking services, and mobile banking applications. Customers may experience delays when attempting to withdraw cash, view account balances, or complete electronic financial transactions. Federal and state officials continue working with financial institutions and private sector cybersecurity specialists to determine the cause of the disruptions. At this time, investigators have not released information regarding the origin of the incident, and restoration efforts remain ongoing. Residents are advised to remain calm and avoid unnecessary purchases or panic buying. Essential goods and services remain available in most communities, and emergency management officials emphasize that supply chains are continuing to operate normally at this time. If possible, residents should carry a limited amount of cash for essential purchases, conserve available fuel, and postpone non-essential financial transactions until electronic services are restored. Businesses experiencing significant network disruptions are encouraged to follow established continuity procedures and report outages to their service providers and appropriate authorities. Additional emergency messages may be issued should disruptions continue expanding or begin affecting additional critical infrastructure. Continue monitoring local officials, local media, and emergency management agencies for updated emergency information.
Good morning. We continue following the developing technology disruptions affecting businesses and financial institutions nationwide. Federal officials now confirm that the incident has expanded beyond the banking sector and is beginning to affect portions of the nation's transportation infrastructure. Several major U.S. airlines, including multiple domestic and international carriers, are reporting significant computer system failures impacting flight operations. Airports across the country are experiencing delays after airline dispatch software, passenger check-in systems, crew scheduling platforms, and baggage handling networks began experiencing intermittent outages earlier this morning. According to the Federal Aviation Administration, air traffic control systems remain fully operational and there is no indication that aircraft safety has been compromised. However, officials say hundreds of departures have been delayed while airlines manually verify flight plans, passenger manifests, and crew assignments. Passengers traveling today are encouraged to check directly with their airline before departing for the airport and should expect extended delays throughout the day as carriers work to restore affected systems. Meanwhile, transportation officials have confirmed that several freight and passenger rail operators are also experiencing network disruptions affecting dispatch and train scheduling software. Railroad companies report that trains continue operating safely under established contingency procedures, but reduced speeds and temporary service interruptions have been implemented in several regions while dispatchers transition to manual operations. Officials emphasize that there have been no reports of train collisions or other incidents related to the outages. Nevertheless, passengers should anticipate delays as rail operators work to safely manage traffic using backup communication methods. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Department of Transportation, and affected transportation providers continue investigating the expanding disruptions. At this time, officials have not identified the cause of the incident and have not confirmed whether the transportation outages are directly connected to the financial network failures reported earlier this morning, with disruptions now affecting banking, electronic payments, aviation, and rail transportation. Emergency management officials continue urging the public to remain patient and avoid spreading unverified information on social media while investigators work to determine the scope of the incident. We'll continue following this rapidly developing story and bring you the latest information as it becomes available. Stay with 11 Alive News for continuing coverage.
The following message is transmitted at the request of the Texas Division of Emergency Management, the Texas Department of State Health Services, the Texas Hospital Association, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, and the Texas Department of Public Safety. A civil emergency message has been issued for portions of North and Central Texas due to expanding disruptions affecting healthcare information systems and medical communications. Since the issuance of previous emergency messages regarding nationwide network outages, numerous hospitals, medical clinics, pharmacies, and healthcare providers throughout Texas have reported significant failures involving electronic medical record systems, prescription services, appointment scheduling platforms, and internal communications networks. As a precaution, many hospitals have transitioned to manual paper documentation procedures while information technology specialists work to restore affected systems. Medical personnel continue providing emergency care. However, patient registration, diagnostic reporting, and access to electronic medical histories may be significantly delayed. Several healthcare systems have postponed non-emergency surgeries and elective medical procedures until normal computer operations can be restored. Patients with scheduled appointments are encouraged to contact their healthcare providers before traveling to determine whether appointments remain scheduled. Officials also report widespread disruptions affecting electronic prescription services. Many pharmacies are currently unable to receive or process electronic prescriptions transmitted by healthcare providers. Patients requiring prescription medications should expect delays and may be asked to provide written prescriptions where available. Individuals requiring life-sustaining medications should contact their physician or pharmacy for guidance before traveling. Emergency departments, ambulance services, fire departments, and law enforcement agencies remain operational. However, officials advise residents that patient processing times at hospitals may be longer than normal due to manual record-keeping procedures. Healthcare providers, federal cybersecurity specialists, and emergency management agencies continue coordinating efforts to restore affected medical systems while maintaining uninterrupted emergency care. At this time, investigators have not identified the cause of the ongoing disruptions, and there is no evidence that patient medical devices or life support equipment have been directly compromised. Residents are urged not to visit hospital emergency departments unless they are experiencing a genuine medical emergency. Individuals with non-life-threatening medical concerns should contact their primary healthcare provider, urgent care clinic, or local medical hotline when possible. Additional emergency messages may be issued as conditions continue to evolve. Continue monitoring local officials, local media, and emergency management agencies for updated emergency information.
The following message is transmitted at the request of the Arizona Department of Public Safety, the Arizona Department of Emergency and Military Affairs, the Maricopa County Department of Emergency Management, and the City of Phoenix Public Safety Communications Department. A 911 telephone outage emergency has been issued for portions of Maricopa County, including the Phoenix metropolitan area, due to disruptions affecting emergency communications systems. Since early this afternoon, several public safety answering points, commonly known as 911 call centers, have experienced intermittent failures involving digital call routing equipment and computer-aided dispatch systems. As a result, some emergency calls placed to 911 may not be received, or may experience significant delays before reaching an emergency dispatcher. Emergency communications technicians are actively working alongside state and federal cybersecurity specialists to restore normal operations. Officials believe the outage is related to the ongoing nationwide network disruptions currently affecting multiple sectors of critical infrastructure. If you are unable to reach 911 during an emergency, use one of the following alternate methods if available. Call your local law enforcement agency using its published non-emergency emergency assistance number. If your wireless provider supports text to 911, send a text message describing your emergency and your exact location. If safe to do so, proceed to the nearest staffed fire station, police station, hospital, or emergency shelter to request immediate assistance. Monitor local officials and media outlets for additional emergency contact numbers established during this outage. Fire departments, emergency medical services, and law enforcement agencies remain fully operational and continue responding to emergencies. However, dispatch times may be longer than normal, while personnel utilize backup communications procedures. Residents are reminded to reserve all available communication methods for genuine emergencies only. Avoid unnecessary telephone calls to emergency communications centers to reduce demand on remaining systems. Emergency officials also encourage residents to ensure family members, particularly elderly relatives and individuals with medical needs, are aware of these temporary communication disruptions and know how to request assistance if necessary. Restoration efforts will continue until full emergency communications capability has been restored. Additional emergency messages will be issued if conditions change. Continue monitoring local officials, local media, and emergency management agencies for updated emergency information.
The following message is transmitted at the request of the Los Angeles Police Department, the California Highway Patrol, the Los Angeles County Office of Emergency Management, the California Office of Emergency Services, and the City of Los Angeles Department of Transportation. A law enforcement warning has been issued for the Los Angeles metropolitan area due to widespread failures affecting computerized traffic management systems and increasing hazards on area roadways. Since approximately 3:15 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, transportation officials have reported significant malfunctions involving centralized traffic signal control systems throughout portions of Los Angeles County. Numerous intersections are experiencing signal failures, irregular signal timing, or complete loss of automated traffic control. Traffic engineers and law enforcement personnel have transitioned to manual traffic control operations at many major intersections. Officers are directing traffic where conditions permit. However, the number of affected intersections continues to increase faster than personnel can be deployed. Several traffic collisions have already been reported throughout the metropolitan area, including multiple injury accidents at intersections where signal failures occurred without warning. Emergency response times may be longer than normal due to heavy congestion and deteriorating traffic conditions. Motorists are advised that traffic signals displaying no lights or flashing signals should be treated as four-way stops unless otherwise directed by law enforcement personnel. Residents are strongly urged to avoid all unnecessary travel until traffic management systems can be stabilized. If travel is essential, reduce speed, allow additional stopping distance, and exercise extreme caution when approaching intersections, railroad crossings, and freeway interchanges. Public transportation agencies are also reporting delays as buses and other transit vehicles experience significant congestion resulting from the widespread traffic signal disruptions. Transportation officials, cybersecurity specialists, and utility personnel continue working to restore affected systems while law enforcement agencies maintain traffic control operations. Investigators have not yet determined whether the traffic signal failures are directly connected to the ongoing nationwide disruptions affecting financial institutions, transportation networks, healthcare systems, and emergency communications. Emergency officials remind residents that interfering with officers directing traffic or attempting to bypass road closures creates additional hazards for both motorists and emergency responders. Additional emergency messages may be issued should conditions continue to deteriorate. Continue monitoring local officials, local media, and emergency management agencies for updated emergency information.
Good evening. We interrupt our regularly scheduled programming for a major development in the nationwide technology disruptions that have affected banking, transportation, healthcare, emergency communications, and other critical services throughout the day. Federal investigators have now confirmed that today's widespread network failures are the result of a coordinated cyber attack targeting multiple sectors of the nation's critical infrastructure. During a briefing held late this afternoon, senior officials from the Department of Homeland Security, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the Department of Justice stated that evidence collected over the past several hours indicates the disruptions were not caused by software failures or routine technical problems, but by a deliberate and highly coordinated cyber operation. Officials say the attack appears to have simultaneously targeted numerous independent computer networks supporting financial institutions, transportation providers, healthcare systems, emergency communications centers, and traffic management infrastructure. Investigators emphasize that there is currently no evidence of a physical attack accompanying the cyber incident. However, they acknowledged that the scale and sophistication of the operation far exceed those of most previously documented cyber attacks against civilian infrastructure. Federal authorities have not identified those responsible and declined to comment on whether the attack originated from a criminal organization, a nation-state, or another hostile actor. Officials say attribution remains one of the highest priorities of the ongoing investigation. Meanwhile, cybersecurity specialists from both the public and private sectors continue working around the clock to isolate malicious activity, restore affected systems, and prevent additional disruptions. The Department of Homeland Security has activated its National Cybersecurity and Communications Integration Center, while federal incident response teams have been deployed to assist organizations experiencing the most significant impacts. Throughout the afternoon, additional disruptions have been reported involving hospital computer systems, emergency communications networks, airline scheduling platforms, rail dispatch operations, and municipal traffic management systems. Authorities caution that restoration efforts remain ongoing and that additional sectors may experience intermittent outages as protective measures are implemented. Officials continue urging the public to remain calm. Essential services remain operational through established contingency procedures, and emergency management agencies report that hospitals, fire departments, law enforcement agencies, and emergency medical services continue responding to emergencies despite the technological disruptions. The White House has not announced whether the president will address the nation this evening, though officials say senior members of the National Security Council continue meeting as the situation develops. This remains a rapidly evolving story, and additional information is expected in the coming hours. Stay with NBC News for continuing coverage of this unprecedented nationwide cyber attack.
The following message is transmitted at the request of the United States Department of Homeland Security, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, the Department of Energy, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, the North American Electric Reliability Corporation, and the Department of Defense. An administrative message is being issued to provide a national update regarding the ongoing coordinated cyber attack affecting critical infrastructure throughout the United States. Federal officials report that cybersecurity teams continue responding to malicious activity targeting multiple sectors of national infrastructure, including financial institutions, transportation systems, healthcare networks, emergency communications, and public utilities. During the past hour, several electric utility providers across multiple states reported attempted unauthorized intrusions into supervisory control and data acquisition systems used to monitor and manage portions of the electrical power grid. Utility operators state that protective safeguards successfully blocked many of these intrusion attempts. However, precautionary actions have been implemented to protect the stability of the electrical system. As a result of these protective measures, rolling power outages have begun in selected service areas to reduce strain on affected networks while engineers isolate compromised equipment. Additional temporary service interruptions may occur as utility providers continue restoration and security operations. Internet service providers throughout several regions are also reporting increasing instability involving backbone network infrastructure. Residents may experience intermittent internet connectivity, slower than normal network performance, or temporary disruptions affecting web services, email, streaming platforms, and cloud-based applications. Telecommunications providers continue implementing emergency routing procedures to maintain essential communications. Federal officials emphasize that emergency services, military communications, and other critical life safety systems remain operational through secured backup networks and redundant communications infrastructure. At the direction of the Secretary of Defense and in coordination with state governors, National Guard cyber protection teams have been activated to assist civilian authorities. These specialized units are supporting federal and state agencies by conducting digital threat analyses, protecting critical government networks, assisting infrastructure operators with incident response, and coordinating cybersecurity operations alongside federal response teams. Residents are encouraged to conserve electrical power whenever practical by limiting unnecessary use of major appliances, charging essential electronic devices while electricity is available, and preparing for the possibility of temporary power interruptions. Officials also remind the public to rely only on verified information provided through official government sources. Numerous false reports and misinformation regarding the ongoing cyber incident are circulating online. Do not share or act upon unverified claims that could interfere with emergency response efforts. The federal government continues working with state and local authorities, private industry partners, and international cybersecurity organizations to identify those responsible, contain the ongoing attack, and restore affected services. Additional emergency messages will be issued as conditions warrant. Continue monitoring local officials, local media, and emergency management agencies for updated emergency information.
The following message is transmitted at the request of the Missouri State Emergency Management Agency, the Missouri Department of Agriculture, the United States Department of Agriculture, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, and the Federal Emergency Management Agency. A civil emergency message has been issued for portions of Missouri and neighboring states due to expanding disruptions affecting commercial supply chain systems and the distribution of essential goods. Since the issuance of the previous administrative message, federal and state officials have confirmed that multiple food distributors, warehouse operators, transportation logistics companies, and retail inventory management systems are experiencing significant network outages associated with the ongoing nationwide cyber attack. Several major distribution centers report that computerized inventory systems, shipping software, warehouse automation equipment, and freight scheduling platforms are currently unavailable. As a result, deliveries of groceries, bottled water, medical supplies, and other essential consumer goods have been delayed in numerous communities. Officials emphasize that there is no nationwide shortage of food or essential supplies. Products remain available within the national distribution network. However, temporary delays may occur while companies transition to manual shipping and inventory procedures. Residents may notice reduced inventories of certain items at grocery stores and retail locations as deliveries are delayed. Emergency management officials stress that these shortages are temporary and are the result of logistical disruptions rather than a lack of available products. The public is strongly urged not to engage in panic buying or unnecessary stockpiling. Purchasing unusually large quantities of food, water, fuel, or household necessities may create localized shortages and prevent vulnerable members of the community from obtaining essential supplies. Consumers are encouraged to purchase only what is reasonably needed for the next several days and allow retailers time to replenish inventory as distribution operations resume. Retailers and distribution companies continue working closely with federal cybersecurity specialists and emergency management agencies to restore affected systems. Many facilities have already begun utilizing manual inventory tracking and paper shipping documentation to resume deliveries wherever possible. State and federal officials continue monitoring the stability of the nation's food supply and emphasize that emergency food reserves and contingency distribution plans remain available should additional assistance become necessary. The ongoing cyber attack continues affecting multiple sectors of critical infrastructure. Authorities remain confident that essential services can continue operating through established continuity procedures while restoration efforts proceed. Additional emergency messages may be issued should conditions continue to evolve. Continue monitoring local officials, local media, and emergency management agencies for updated emergency information.
My fellow Americans, earlier today, our nation became the target of one of the most significant cyber attacks ever directed against the United States. Over the past 15 hours, coordinated attacks against critical digital infrastructure have disrupted financial institutions, transportation networks, healthcare systems, emergency communications, utility providers, and commercial supply chains across our country. This evening, after consulting with my national security team, I have declared a national cyber emergency to ensure that every available federal resource can be brought to bear in responding to this incident. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Defense, the Department of Energy, and numerous other federal agencies are working together around the clock alongside state governments, local authorities, and private industry to contain the attack, restore critical services, and identify those responsible. I want to address one question that many Americans are asking tonight. At this time, there is no evidence that the United States is under physical military attack. There have been no reports of hostile military action against our homeland, and our armed forces remain fully prepared to defend the nation should circumstances change. This attack has targeted computers, networks, and the digital systems that support our daily lives. Our military, intelligence community, and law enforcement agencies continue investigating the source of these attacks, and we will pursue those responsible using every lawful instrument available to the United States. Tonight, I also want to recognize the extraordinary work being carried out across this country. Bank employees working to restore financial systems, doctors, nurses, and hospital staff caring for patients using paper records, air traffic controllers and railroad personnel safely operating under emergency procedures, police officers, firefighters, emergency dispatchers, utility crews, cybersecurity specialists, and members of the National Guard working tirelessly to protect our communities. Their professionalism has prevented these disruptions from becoming an even greater crisis. To every American, I ask for your patience and your cooperation. Please avoid unnecessary travel if local officials advise against it. Conserve electricity where practical. Use communications systems responsibly so emergency traffic can get through, and rely only on information provided through official government sources and trusted local media. Do not spread rumors or unverified reports online. False information only makes the job of emergency responders more difficult. America has faced extraordinary challenges before. Natural disasters, acts of terrorism, economic crises, and pandemics. Each time, we have overcome those challenges because we face them together. Tonight will be no different. Our government is functioning. Our emergency services remain operational. Essential services continue to operate through contingency plans developed for exactly this kind of event. While the coming hours may continue to bring disruptions, I want every American to know this: we are responding. We are restoring, and we will hold those responsible accountable. Thank you. May God bless those working through this emergency tonight, and may God bless the United States of America.
Good morning. We begin this Friday with the latest developments following yesterday's unprecedented nationwide cyber attack. An incident that federal officials now describe as one of the most extensive attacks ever carried out against the United States civilian infrastructure. After nearly 24 hours of continuous response efforts, authorities report that most essential services have now been partially restored. Financial institutions across the country have gradually resumed online banking operations, automated teller machines are returning to service, and electronic payment systems are becoming available once again. Although intermittent disruptions continue to affect some customers, transportation networks are also recovering. Major airlines have resumed much of their normal flight schedules following yesterday's widespread computer failures. While freight and passenger rail operators continue transitioning from emergency manual operations back to automated dispatch systems, officials caution that delays are still possible as technicians verify the integrity of restored networks. Hospitals throughout several states continue operating under emergency contingency procedures. While many healthcare providers have successfully restored portions of their electronic medical record systems, others remain dependent on handwritten documentation. And some non-emergency medical procedures continue to be postponed until network security can be fully verified. Power has been restored to most communities affected by yesterday's rolling outages, and emergency communications systems including several 9-1-1 call centers impacted during the attack have largely returned to normal operation. Utility providers and telecommunications companies continue monitoring their systems for any additional signs of unauthorized activity. Federal investigators remain focused on determining who carried out the coordinated cyber attack. Officials from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, the National Security Agency, and the Department of Homeland Security confirmed this morning that the investigation remains active. While forensic analysis continues around the clock, authorities have declined to identify any individual, criminal organization, or foreign government as being responsible, stating that doing so prematurely could compromise the ongoing investigation. Investigators also continue examining how the attackers were able to simultaneously target financial institutions, transportation providers, hospitals, communications systems, utility networks, and commercial supply chains with such precision. Cybersecurity experts describe the operation as unusually sophisticated, suggesting that it was planned over an extended period of time and executed with extensive knowledge of critical infrastructure. In response, federal officials announced that a comprehensive review of national cybersecurity standards is already underway. government agencies and private infrastructure operators will examine existing security practices, emergency continuity plans, and digital defenses in an effort to strengthen resilience against future attacks. Yesterday's events have also prompted renewed debate among lawmakers, cybersecurity professionals, and infrastructure experts regarding the nation's dependence on interconnected computer systems. The attack caused no explosions, no missiles were launched, no buildings collapsed, yet within hours, banking services, transportation, healthcare, emergency communications, utilities, and commerce were all significantly disrupted. For many experts, the question is no longer whether another cyber attack will occur, but whether the nation's critical infrastructure is prepared when it does. Although the immediate emergency has largely passed, officials warn that the investigation is only beginning. Additional arrests, criminal charges, or public announcements remain possible as investigators continue tracing the origin of the attack. For now, life across much of the country is beginning to return to normal. But the events of the past 24 hours have left a lasting question that government officials, industry leaders, and the American public will likely be asking for years to come. Just how vulnerable is the digital foundation of modern society? Stay with NBC News for continuing coverage as this investigation develops.